You were told the universe was born from love, that some incomprehensible, perfect being sculpted the galaxies with compassion, seeded life with kindness, and lit the stars not for warmth or utility, but because it cared. You were told that pain had a purpose, that your suffering was a test, a lesson, a means to some higher good. But what if it wasn't? What if this world, in all its broken splendor, wasn't made by a loving God, but by something else? Something cruel, something cold, something that builds galaxies like ant farms, only to set them on fire. What if God exists, and he hates you? This is not a joke. This is not a horror story. This is a philosophical proposition with razor edges and theological implications so sharp they can cut the soul. It's called the evil God hypothesis, and it might be the most terrifying idea you've never seriously considered, because the evidence might already be in front of you. Look around. Famine, war, children born to suffer and die before they ever understand why they were born at all. Diseases that eat the mind before they kill the body. The haunting indifference of natural disasters, the persistent silence of the sky, and yet we insist that behind all this chaos there's love. Why? Why do we assume that the creator of this universe, if one exists, must be good? We argue that suffering is justified, or that there are reasons beyond our comprehension, that we must trust in the plan, no matter how incomprehensible or cruel it may appear. But turn the mirror. What if all this goodness, the laughter of children, the warmth of sunlight, the beauty of a flower blooming, what if all of it is bait? A distraction, a setup, a necessary veneer of hope to make the pain hurt more when it inevitably comes. Maybe that's why love exists, so it can be twisted into grief. Why beauty exists, so it can be destroyed. Why joy exists, only so it can be taken. After all, what hurts more, never having anything at all, or having it, loving it, needing it, and watching it rot in your hands? An evil God wouldn't eliminate good, he'd weaponize it. This idea isn't just a grim reversal, it's a serious philosophical challenge. Because if we can construct elaborate theodicies, arguments that justify the existence of evil in a world created by a good God, then why can't we do the same in reverse? Take free will. Theists claim that God gave us free will because love cannot be forced and moral growth requires choice. Evil exists because we are free to choose wrongly. Without that freedom, we would be puppets. But now imagine an evil God. He too gives free will, but not out of love, out of sadism. He wants you to have the freedom to sin, to betray, to fail, because orchestrated suffering is less satisfying than suffering freely chosen. There's a special kind of cruelty in giving someone the tools to destroy themselves and letting them do it. Your freedom becomes a game, a rigged lottery, a delicious tragedy. Or consider the soul-building defense. Some argue that pain exists to develop virtues, courage, compassion, resilience, that we grow through suffering, that the world is a forge and we are blades tempered by fire. But what if the forge is a furnace, and the heat isn't meant to strengthen you, but to break you? An evil God doesn't create suffering to build your soul, but to crack it, to watch what happens when the human spirit bends, when it snaps, when it turns against itself. Virtue under fire is noble, but despair under fire, that's the real show. And then there's the natural law defense. Theists say that for there to be a consistent, predictable world, one in which science, agency, and morality are possible, there must be natural laws. Gravity must work, even if it leads to someone falling to their death. Earthquakes are necessary byproducts of tectonic plates. A world too safe would be unlivable, or worse, meaningless. But an evil God could also create that world. He too would want natural law, because randomness is boring. Predictability is what makes disaster hit harder. Knowing the ground is stable until it suddenly isn't. Trusting your body until the cancer spreads. There is something profoundly cruel about a universe that almost makes sense. A universe that nearly works. A universe where suffering is rare enough to feel unfair, yet common enough to be inevitable. Even the appeal to mystery, the ultimate fallback, collapses under the weight of symmetry. We say God works in mysterious ways when tragedy strikes. But why not say the same of an evil God when beauty appears, when you fall in love, when your child is born, when something wonderful happens without reason? Maybe those are the anomalies, the glitches, the sugar before the poison. If you accept that a good God could have mysterious reasons for allowing evil, then shouldn't you accept that an evil God could have mysterious reasons for allowing good? And yet nobody does. Not seriously. The idea of a perfectly evil God is dismissed as absurd. Laughable. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the evil God hypothesis isn't here to make you believe in a demon creator. Maybe it's here to force you to confront a question you've spent your whole life avoiding. Why do you believe the universe is good? Because it feels nice? Because you were raised to? Because the alternative is too horrifying to entertain? Because we're afraid of what it means? If there isn't a reason behind our pain, let's be clear. This isn't an argument for an evil God. It's a scalpel, a philosophical instrument used to carve out bias and expose a wound that never healed. It says, if you find the evil God hypothesis ridiculous, and you should, then maybe you should find the good God hypothesis just as ridiculous given the same evidence. Because here's the problem. If a perfectly good God and a perfectly evil God can both explain the exact same universe with the exact same reasoning, then maybe neither of them exists, or maybe something worse does, something that isn't good or evil, something that doesn't care. A God beyond morality, a creator who builds life and death, joy and agony, light and shadow with equal indifference, like an artist throwing paint at a wall and calling it meaning. Or maybe there's no God at all, just random chance, cold physics, a blind, indifferent cosmos hurtling toward entropy while we scream meaning into the void. But that's the part you've always known, isn't it? Deep down, that the universe doesn't seem to love you, that prayers echo unanswered, that tragedies go unexplained, that hope, while beautiful, often feels like a lie we tell ourselves to survive another day, and yet we keep telling it. We tell stories of a God who loves us, watches over us, has a plan, because we need it, because the alternative is unbearable. But the evil God hypothesis holds your gaze and whispers, what if the plan is pain? What if you were made to suffer? What if the point was never salvation, only observation? A God who doesn't intervene because the suffering is the point. A God who watches your tears the way a child watches ants burn under a magnifying glass. Think of the implications. Every joy becomes a setup. Every moment of peace becomes a lie. Every act of love becomes a tool for later torment. And the most disturbing part? There's nothing in the observable universe that rules this out. You can't disprove the evil God any more than you can prove the good one. They're both invisible, both transcendent, both defined however they need to be to fit the narrative. And if that's true, if both are equally unprovable, equally explainable, then why do we default to hope? Maybe it's biology, maybe it's desperation, maybe it's a collective coping mechanism shared by a species that knows deep down it's not supposed to be here. Or maybe there is a God, and maybe we just don't know him. Maybe he's not good, not evil, not interested in what we think of him at all. Maybe he created the universe the way a child builds a tower of blocks, for fun. for distraction, for no reason that would ever make sense to the blocks themselves. And maybe one day he'll knock it down. But you still hope, you still pray, you still beg the sky for kindness, for purpose, for meaning. And maybe that's what saves you. Not from suffering, not from death, not from the silence, but from becoming like him. So go ahead, hope, but know what you're hoping for. Not every architect builds with love. Not every creator wants to be worshipped. And not every God deserves your faith. Sleep well if he lets you.